achieving those ideas, the brilliant ideas that he had, then as a duly elected chairperson, he's duty-bound to reach out to people that have the age-old experience and the stature to push that particular initiative. Mr. Speaker, I also want to challenge Kenyans that when one of us steps out to the global stage, we are duty-bound to perhaps pose our local differences and not transport them to the international stage. It is not just Prime Minister Raila that has been a victim of this. You know for a fact that many of the fake accounts that were being operated of his opponents were being run from Nairobi here by people who simply disagree with the candidature of Raila Odinga. We need to mature and rise to the position of knowing that our local differences need not necessarily be exported to the global stage and show to everybody that we don't agree with this particular person or the other. I believe that in the same way, once an election is done, for example, in your county, and people grant you the opportunity to serve as senator for County X, Mr. Speaker, all the other people queue behind you, and you represent their interest here in the Senate. There's no need to undercut and undermine each other. It's a retrogressive practice that is continuing to gain bad reputation. And unfortunately, it is supported by certain leaders who don't see beyond petty partisan politics, Mr. Speaker, who believe that it is good to cheer on young people, even as they malign their own country online in the global stage, thinking that it will power their popularity. You know, this addiction to clickbaits, Mr. Speaker, and trying to be favored and loved online is what will bring down many a political career. Mr. Speaker, we must always appreciate and know that there is a line between being democratic, expressing your views of disagreement or agreement with a particular position, and being outright, Mr. Speaker, foul with your language and abusive of other people in their pursuit of their interests. It broke my heart, for example, Mr. Speaker, to see certain people celebrating, including leaders. I must add that unfortunately, some of them sit in this house, Mr. Speaker, posting messages and saying, oh, I'm glad so-and-so lost. Really? In the 21st century? That was a new law for me, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister Raila Odinga, you don't have to agree with him politically, but he has earned his space. He has made his mark. You may never have voted for him in your life, or like me, you may have voted for him once or twice, Mr. Speaker, but do we really have to sink that low as a country where even leaders, Mr. Speaker, post messages of celebration and saying, oh, we are glad you didn't do this or the other? I want to urge us as a country that perhaps it is time we pause and draw a line and realize that what is a fine line between politics? What are the things that you can agree on? What are the things that you can disagree on, Mr. Speaker? How do we learn to coexist with each other? What is this negative energy that has permeated our country so much, Mr. Speaker, that even on such solemn issues that can easily bring together a country, Mr. Speaker, we want to disagree on? Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to dwell much on the things that haven't gone right. This is about a celebration of a Kenyan who stepped up on the continental stage and did us proud. The results notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker. And as a Kenyan, I felt proud watching him in Addis, making his presentation, meeting with other heads of state, listening and following to the more than 20 heads of states, nearly half of Africa, who stood with him up to the 6th round, Mr. Speaker, and voting and insisting that this is a man that needs to lead our continent, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, is to congratulate the gentleman that was elected, because in any election, there's a winner and a loser. Only that in this case, in my humble view, Africa lost, Mr. Speaker. It's not Raila that lost. Africa would have been served better by this statesman, Mr. Speaker. But because in any democratic process, we have been taught and must appreciate, Mr. Speaker, that the person